Steelers fans, welcome into the Noll Road. We're heading for Baltimore, 1 o'clock at M&T Bank Stadium. It is Ravens week. What do you think about what Aaron Rodgers said? Confident in a strong finish. They did bring in a new wide receiver this week. Is Adam Thielen going to be the guy to unlock this Steelers offense? How awesome would that be? Or is this delusional Aaron Rodgers rearing his head again? Winner of this game, either way, is going to get a massive boost to their playoff probability, take control of the AFC North. Let's talk about all the X factors and storylines and matchups. Here we go.
To the corner of the end zone. Oh, for a touchdown!
Yeah, buddy, welcome in. It's Dawson, a new bear. Like the video if you like the video. Aaron Rodgers trying to speak confidence into existence this week. Here's his quote. I think this is what a veteran quarterback, it's what any quarterback should say at a time like this. Of course, I have confidence in my guys, have confidence in leadership, have confidence in the coaching staff. But new bear, Pittsburgh 0 for 10 on passes of 20-plus air yards since week 9. Their opponents have produced 64 more first downs for the season, run 153 more plays, and are averaging 89 more yards per game than the Steelers. It's unbelievable. And their opponents have produced 39 more explosive plays than the Steelers, and 26 more explosive passes. It's unreal how this offense. My explanation is they have limitations, and the league has figured out they're really not going to throw it over the middle of the field, and it has made them the easiest team to defend in the entire league.
RELAX versus ARTIE. I don't know how you objectively take a step back and look at this offense and believe. I just don't. I mean, Aaron's pointing fingers and scheme not getting people open. When dudes do get open, they're either overlooked or Aaron's missing. They're almost refusing to just lean into. I mean, you realize Jaylen Warren's 15th and Gainwell's 7th in rush EPA, and they're 10th or 12th as a team rush EPA, and then Warren is 15th in rush success rate. Gainwell is 7th in rush success rate. Sorry, those are the numbers that were banging around in my head. You got 2 of the top 15 backs in the whole league, and by the way, that includes quarterbacks whose numbers are always in. Like rush success rate. We said run the ball 50 times last week. Guess what? One team did, the team that beat your ass.
Yes, and I love it because I think that's one of their paths to victory. That's perhaps their most likely path to victory. But as you've talked about all week or all season long, really, Aaron Rodgers in his mind is still 25 years old and capable of driving this thing. Until he acknowledges I'm an old guy and most of this is my fault, they're not going to stop passing the ball about 8% of the time too much. Here's our guy, Tommy Jag. He got some great stuff. Aaron Rodgers entering week 14, 33rd of 33rd intended air yards per pass, 33rd of 33rd completed air yards per pass, per completion, both are there. 20th of 33 in bad throw percentage, 20th in on-target throw percentage, 30th in EPA per play, 40th of 42 in average depth of target. There's only a couple of backup bums that have appeared in games more. So, I mean, you nailed it. If the Steelers are going to turn this thing around, it's going to be like, okay, it's December now. It's time to be a physical football team, and at least we can take care of the part of the running game on our end, which should be just run it a lot more. And we'll try to figure out on the defensive side. I mean, you got an answer defensively, just be a takeaway defense, but we have to see the offense do their part of it if we're going to imagine a strong finish here to 2025.
You know, there's the great audio. We're going to unleash hell in December. You know, we're Tomlin. Here's what I'm going to say. When Najee was slow to start or when this offense was bad early, you could, for the most part, believe that when November happened, when the weather, you get in December and January and you get a shot in that wild card round, the team was going to be better at the end of the season, and they were going to be as good as that version of the team was going to be about as good as it could be headed into the playoffs, and they were going to run the ball, and they were going to punt, and they were going to play defense. And at least you could be like, okay, well, that's our identity. What the hell is this team's identity? Like,
I don't know.
the
It should be
stubbornness.
run, throw it to the tight ends a lot, and wait for DK to spring a big one.
That's what we thought it was going to be. And they're trying to run it like it's a regular fucking offense. Like, you are who you are, not what your record says you are, EPA or PFF or whatever. Like, the thing that blew me away this week was everyone was talking about how fast Adam Thielen looks and how quick he looks in these regular wide receiver drills. And he does look good, especially for where he is and everyone thinking he's just washed and the Vikings being ready to move on. But, like, what does it say about how lazy and nonchalant the rest of the receivers who can really run, because we know Thielen isn't an underwear Olympics guy, take these things from week to week, season to season, decade to decade, that you're looking at Adam Thielen just trying hard, looking like a superstar in practice. Like, if we think Adam Thielen's the answer, we're literally out of our damn minds. The thing that I can't stand about this team right now is everything that you would say early in the season. Remember there was a time when we were bitch moaning and complaining about how they had Aaron Rodgers ranked as like the 30th quarterback in the league and his advanced metrics sucks. And we're like, he threw 4 touchdowns. His clutch gene is off the charts. And some of the metrics were, top 10, top 12, top 15. And you could be like, there's still a really good quarterback in there. Not when you're forcing the ball to DK to try to quote unquote unlock some new level in this defense when Jonnu's running wide open on the mesh opposite him. Not when you throw the ball out of bounds or airmail it when Roman Wilson comes open and you actually look his way.
It would be cool if Adam Thielen, could give something here for Aaron Rodgers. And knowing how much he wants veteran wide receivers who know the scheme and are where they're supposed to be, like, I bet Aaron Rodgers is laying awake at night having fantasies that he and Thielen save this Steelers offense and the NFC North combines to win the AFC North between the Packers and Vikings stuff. And I wouldn't be surprised if Rodgers is looking for him significantly more just to prove himself right, that it wasn't on
literally the problem.
Yeah.
He won't run the play that's called. He won't go through his progressions.
And as bad as this has gotten, I would actually have to put like Thielen saving the day as the third most likely way the Steelers offense could become viable again, other than, behind running it 55% of the time and actually throwing it to Freiermuth and Smith. Like, those are number 1 and number 2. Adam Thielen, who I think has 80 yards receiving on the year, is a clear and distant number 3.
How about just playing Freiermuth? How about putting 88 on the field? How about letting him approach the huddle and feel like he deserved his helmet this Sunday? It's ridiculous, the snap counts. It's ridiculous, the percentages, the breakdowns. It's 55 isn't enough. Like, this year, this team, this is the one team that should be playing back stuck in the 90s. This is the one team that shouldn't give a flying fuck about PFF or any of the other advanced stats. None of them. Not one of them matters when your number 1 wide receiver isn't a number 1 wide receiver, when there's no one else to take the pressure off him, because Roman Wilson's season is just a twisted joke at this point. And, oh, by the way, all these tight ends, not only are you not playing the ones who can catch the ball, but you're putting the ones who can't block at the apex of the running plays at the most important times of the games, while you have offensive linemen lined up as quote-unquote slot receivers. Like, I'm out of my damn mind because I'm over the excuses and I'm over the passive aggressive using the microphone to talk. How about just go talk to your teammates? What did they do with the birthday cake? Did they watch film? Remember we heard earlier in the season when Aaron Rodgers ended up at Cam Hayward's house and he was the only one for movie night. No one else showed up. Like, why aren't they doing that every day? Why isn't everyone just at the facility until their eyes bleed trying to figure out what it's going to take?
I think 2 things. Number 1, the finger pointing, and it's easy to blame others and be like, I'm doing my job. But number 2, the money. And I talk about how the owners in this league are drunk on the money and they don't have any incentive to have more urgency about getting things fixed. Like, a lot of them just want a lifestyle of being an NFL owner, pulling their $200 million cleared every year, win, lose, or draw, and keep their fingers crossed that everybody, does a good enough job to take you on a good postseason run every now and then. But it applies to the players as well. And it's difficult when you have that level of money to find the intrinsic intrinsic motivation that propelled you through high school and college, chasing this dream of generational wealth and financial freedom. Once you have hit that, a lot of guys are going to start mailing it in. So you need great leadership and attention to detail. And, I don't know, Aaron Rodgers talked about how much he believes in the leadership of this team. I don't believe they have that anymore. And then you go to a head coach, who the seat is hotter than ever on. It's just, it's difficult to imagine this Steelers team pulling it out of the fire at this point. So as we get set now for the 1:00 kickoff in Baltimore against the Ravens, this is a Baltimore team that did lose to the Bengals, but they've still won 5 of 6. They had some bad turnover luck last week in Joe Burrow's return to lose to the Bengals, but Baltimore is getting better and healthier as the season goes on. The Steelers, on the other hand, they've lost 5 of 7, and they're 6-11 in their last 17 games, including playoffs. Like, I think the Steelers are much closer to a 6-11 team than a 6-6 team right now, just by the eyeball test. So they're getting worse as the season goes on.
Yeah, heard, truth, say it louder for the people pulling back. So how's it going to happen? And is this going to be the week that you do see 50 runs? Is this going to be a week where, you see, like the Bears, winning in spite of Caleb Williams? Caleb Williams under 60%. Caleb Williams is not playing great quarterback. Like some of these other teams out there who aren't getting great quarterback play and aren't explosive. The Bears show up and they're going to give you 281. They got a 7th round rookie running back who is just lighting people up. Opposite DeAndre Swift, they got their own version of Sonic and Knuckles. And there is nothing wrong with figuring out if what Warren can handle, because you paid him like you expected him to be RB1, and he's barely even RB1 for this team. Kenny Gainwell is the second leading receiver. You might argue that he is the only real consistent threat in the passing game from week to week. And oh, by the way, he's out there making one-handed video game catches and is the 7th rated rushing success rate guy in the whole damn league. Like, I don't care if they come out and the whole thing just runs through them and they say we either win this game 13-10 or the season's over. I don't care if that's what they do for the rest of it, because at least then you would know what the plan is. And they would, instead of coming into a game and having the game script and the game flow getting determined by getting down by a touchdown or having a turnover or whatever, like, what if you just come out and say, this is who we are, this is what we do, and damn it, we're going to get it done.
Yeah, and I would love it if it is a lot of Gainwell and Warren. Last week, Warren actually had more routes run than Gainwell. So hopefully they're turning their attention to maybe the answer here isn't trying to figure out how to get it to DK Metcalf, but it's using our running backs and using our tight ends to maybe free DK Metcalf up after we've made them worry about these 4 other players who are going to mostly operate inside the box. I think that would be the kind of schematic shift that if we found out this week, the Steelers coaches said, holy crap, we're all about to get fired. I'm Arthur Smith and now I'm auditioning for my next job. Instead of trying to make Mike Tomlin happy, Mike Tomlin might be out the door already. I got to do something to impress an NFL team. And if you look back on what I've done in my last 2 stops, not a lot of people are going to be beating down this door. So maybe I, Arthur Smith, now want to come up with a game plan, not necessarily catering to Mike Tomlin, but catering to my job prospects here for March. Those are the kinds of things that I could see tipping the scales back in the Steelers' favor, because I do still believe the personnel is here to be a pretty good football team.
What's really interesting to me about what you just said about like the last couple of stops, right? You're talking about Artie Smith. So think about Aaron Rodgers and how things ended in Green Bay and how things went in New York and how much control he had, how much outright, not just dissonance, but defiance of what was being called and how that played out publicly. Doesn't this now feel more like the Aaron Rodgers that we had come to know and hate versus the one that we had come around to know and love and wanted to go have a beer with at the beginning of 2025? Like, I don't need him taking shots at guys with the microphone in front of his face. I need him being in the locker room, bringing people together. I need him doing the birthday cakes and the cookouts and the fucking ayahuasca retreats or whatever the version of that you can do and still pass an NFL drug test in season and get it done. Because like the thing is, I'm not just saying you are who you are and it's the Tecmo Bowl 4-play playbook, and you can run student body left, student body right. I'm talking about using Gainwell and Warren to go Texas routes like LaDainian Tomlinson, to go rail routes like Marshall Faulk, and you use DK and play off him, and you use Freiermuth in the middle and Mount Washington in the middle, and Washington or Smith might just be a lost cause at this point. He wasn't getting it done early. Aaron was airmailing him. He had confidence issues with drops, and now Aaron isn't even seeing him, the mesh one that everyone wants to talk about last week. But like, it's not just about running, it's about what you do off of it. Just like it's not just about cover 3, it's about or blitzing out of man free. It's about what you do off of it, right? And what the other team does, and having answers for them and not evolving. That's what game flow is supposed to be. Game flow has become for the Steelers an excuse to say, "Oh, it got out of we couldn't do what we do." What do you do?
Great point. Okay, up next here on the Noll Road, let's flip it to the other side. What version of Lamar Jackson are the Steelers facing? What needs to happen to have success against Lamar? Here's TJ Watt this week at practice talking about what version of Lamar he expects.
I'm approaching him, and we're approaching him like he's Lamar that we've known this whole time. I mean, the guy's dynamic runner next to him. He has dynamic playmakers. They have a really stout offensive line, so there's a lot of weapons.
That being said, over his last 5 games, Lamar is averaging just 6.2 rushing yards per game on designed runs.
Yeah, you would think that was going to be per carry. It's per game.
Yeah, 19.6 per game. That's 30% of what he's done for his career. He's gone 3 straight games failing to reach 30 on the ground the first time in his career, averaging a career low 2.2 designed rush attempts per game in 2025. He's just having to run a lot less than usual. It's 4 different lower body injuries that have appeared on the practice report one week or another over the last 5 weeks. And he actually had 3 fumbles against the Bengals. So that, Lamar Jackson, as we talked about last video, I think some people thought it was a ridiculously stupid idea. But if you rely on your running this much and you've been injured as much as Lamar has, I don't know if he's going to have any more MVP caliber seasons. I'm considering it a decent probability that he is massively slowing down, and this season is going to mark a significant change in his career as far as who he is and how dangerous he is. Just as approaching 30 was tough, and it marked the end for Cam Newton and other players like this. And I don't know that Lamar Jackson has ever become the decision maker and the technician inside the pocket to believe that even though he's an accurate throw over the football, he's going to continue to be an all-pro or even Pro Bowl level player. So coming into this one, it's got to be one of these games where you have that dominant pass rush week and you punish Lamar Jackson for being a significantly different player than you've seen. The Ravens have a minus 15 sack differential compared to Pittsburgh's plus 12. The Ravens are 5-0 when they don't commit a turnover. They're 1-6 when they do. So if this is going to turn around and you're going to have a great finish to the season, go 11-6 and hit the playoffs with some momentum, it's got to start with this Steelers front being who we believe they are and not being washed up, in their own right.
So what you're talking about there is Cam, TJ, and how you're going to play Lamar, right? Do they have the ability? This is the thing. The most interested. This is what I'm going to be the most interested to see. Is do they respect Lamar, or do they just try to take Derrick Henry away and make Lamar beat him? Because the mesh point of this game is going to be schematically what they're doing when those two are lined up in the backfield next to each other. Do you have the ability to say, not today, King Henry? Because the same thing I was going to say about RELAX from Aaron Rodgers, you would go HENRY. That's it. It's as simple as that. That lasting image of him stiff-arming Minka out of town, and that being the defining characteristic of as bad as it could get until last week when the Bills ran the same damn play down your throat, right? Like, it's one thing when you have Lamar and King Henry and you got to defend that and you give that. And it's another thing when, if Lamar can't run and they just line up with Henry and play off tackle football and he goes nuts, it's over. So do Tuesday, Lamar might not play. Wednesday, Lamar is good. Thursday, you go through this week and you go from like Lamar might not play, doesn't look good, isn't practicing, to he's going, and we don't know what level of what is hurt, but we know he's bothered and he's banged up. So Mike Tomlin always talks about how much reverence he has for running quarterbacks, and then he got his hands on Justin Fields and he quit on him. So if he's not going to quit on this defense, his defense, this team, his franchise that he still calls the greatest in all of sports, then this is the week you come out the other way and you say, Derrick Henry, not today. Lamar Jackson, you better have what it takes, because we're not going to let this game go any other way.
Yeah, big game for the defensive lines and the linebackers. I hope if Lamar's not a factor, you can slow down Derrick Henry in a significant way. And I hope the historical advantage that Mike Tomlin has had against the Ravens shows up. I mean, you look back on the game log of this, and other than, that playoff game, is it 6 of 7 the Steelers' way? Is it like 8 of the last 11 going the Steelers' way? Like Mike Tomlin, as much as he takes heat, I think he coaches differently against the Ravens and has had John Harbaugh's number. Now,
yeah, but a lot of that was young Lamar and Greg Roman offense, and it was a much simpler time, right? Once Lamar proves he actually is
up until last year, you had their number in Baltimore. Up until last year, where the trend changed, that was still Lamar Jackson MVP. I get your point. I get what you're saying. A lot of that was built, but it was still holding up until last year.
Yep. The thing about this is there is an excuse. He's a wounded duck. So what's the variance off of that? Is the variance how they play or how you attack them?
Yeah. And I would hope that we've seen enough in this year and their backs are against the wall that they don't just trust what they do and think they're going to execute better. Like I hate when coaches say that. The difference, and Tomlin says it all the time, that, the difference is execution. Okay, well, who your players are. If they're consistently not executing, and you really could be or should be like 4-8 right now, if you take away the insane turnover luck that you had, I would look at this and say, guys, maybe the coaches, and what we're drawing up is putting them in a position to not execute better. Baltimore is a 6-point home favored in this game. I think Vegas knows that the trends that we're seeing going into this, and then you add the injury factor. While the Ravens are getting healthy, the Steelers are going to play this game without Kyle Duggar, without Calvin Anderson, so you're down another offensive lineman, and without Derek Harmon, who, I talked about a couple of weeks ago when this injury happened. I wasn't sure how much you were going to miss him. He hadn't made a ton of big splash plays, but it was clear against Buffalo you're missing your rookie defensive lineman.
Yeah, this is we've been talking so much about like when it comes all the way down to week 18, and what's so funny about this is the Ravens looked terrible last week. There's been a couple of fantasy weeks where I've picked up their defense just because they're the Ravens. Kyle Hamilton, all these names, and you've mentioned some of the guys who stepped up for them throughout the past few weeks. And how do you say the old Cowboys corner? Who's their best corner? How do you say his name?
Chino Awuzie. Yeah. Cheetah Bay. Yeah.
And there's so many guys, the early injury to Matabuke, right? And then Roquan not looking like Roquan, and quite frankly, having some of the same conversations we had about Cam Hayward early, about Roquan Smith, maybe playing his way into shape. And man, is this a tough one, because this game used to matter. It used to feel different. This used to be, if not the best, surely the best one to watch, because it was going to be a knockdown, drag out, and I'm not just talking about Ray Lewis. I'm talking about Ray Lewis becoming Roquan Smith. I'm talking about, Troy Polamalu becoming Minkah Fitzpatrick. It was passed down. It was handed down from, one generation to another. And right now, the general apathy to think about being a 6-point dog when Lamar Jackson just got dogged, right, by Joe Burrow, like fucking Wolverine from the turf toe, and that meaning the Bengals being one of, until last week, the worst teams in the league. Whew, buddy, this is a tough one to judge, because which team shows up? Does the team show up that peanut punches and puts its heads down it finds a way to battle through adversity. And you go, well, hold on. What team is that question for? Because that question also exists for the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, it's crazy how tough this division has been and how weak it looks right now. I do think Baltimore is clearly better, but to your point about losing Matabuke and Roquan not playing like Roquan, the Ravens are giving up 4.5 an attempt. They are 20th in the NFL in run defense. Definitely not the Baltimore front that maybe you were anticipating going into the season. So that goes to is your coaching staff actually coming up with a game plan to punish the opposition for where they are weak. Or if you're thinking, well, Aaron Rodgers is going to start playing better football and he's going to take us and put on his Hall of Fame gold jacket and we're going to be good to go. Put your score down below in the comments. Would love to see how many of you could maybe nail this or feel like the Steelers are going to win. The Ravens haven't reached 30 points in 5 straight games. Just a couple of things to keep in mind here for your predictions. I don't think they'll need 30 to win. Most Ravens Steelers contests, by the way, are low scoring and close. In 7 of the last 10 meetings, neither team has gotten to 20 points. Okay, so that's history. Here we are in 2025. I don't think either of these defenses are holding up to the standard of what they've been over the last 10 meetings. So I'm actually going to say this feels like Ravens 27, Steelers 17 for me, and I would be taking Baltimore to cover if I was a gambling man, which I'm not.
I DM'd you the Alohi Gilman tape, right? Darnell Washington. Yeah. So the thing about this week is all those components I was just talking about are still out there. Like Gilman's new to this rivalry, right? Washington's still relatively new. He's a young player still in this league, but they're chatting, they're sending messages back and forth, right? Like, yes, Alohi Gilman was very complimentary and he had a lot of flattering things to say about Darnell Washington, but this is how does it start, right?
Their tight end, Darnell Washington, I think he said he weighs 311 pounds.
Yeah.
Just like you see that coming down the field, kind of how do you deal with that?
I don't care. I mean, I've played against him before. Got a lot of respect for him. Great player, size. You guys can see me. I'm not 300 pounds, but I don't see numbers when I'm out there. I just see bodies. So we're going to go get after him, everyone who's out there.
I love it.
Yeah. Bring it on. So give me Alohi Gilman, Kyle Hamilton, Wiggins, Chidi Bay, all these guys. They don't really have guys to defend. So can you catch them napping? Can you catch them sleeping? Can you is this the game Roman Wilson finally catches one over the top? Is this a game where Adam Thielen does Adam Thielen stuff in the in and out whip route game? And all of a sudden, after a few days of practice, Rodgers miraculously trusts a guy, right? That isn't number 4. And is this a game also because when you talk about all those guys, you're talking about that exact type of matchup. It's what's the body type? Who of those guys matches up with Freiermuth? And if Freiermuth's out there, does Kyle Hamilton have to almost run with him? So how do you take your guys and create matchup problems, at the very least challenges? Because Lamar and Derrick Henry literally standing next to each other or in the pistol in a straight line is a matchup challenge, if not a problem, depending on the health of 8. How are you doing that for your guys?
Man, I hope it is with that in mind of getting Gilman out on the edge with Washington bearing down on him. It would be an incredibly poetic time to recreate that scene down the Bengals sideline where Washington got 3 bodies in about a 5-second span and then flexed on everybody. That was intoxicating, and that was probably peak so far moment, maybe Ireland for the Steelers 2025 season. We'll keep the faith that something can change to shift the dynamics and put the Steelers not only in control of this game and the division, but actually making us optimistic for the first time in a little bit here on the Noll Road. We'll be back with reaction Sunday night, Monday, something like that. We go long form 4 times a week. If you're liking the video, please hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed yet, maybe you're watching on a smart TV, just hit the menu button, bring up more options. You can find all of it there. Until next time, we'll see you here on the Noll Road.